I'm running for president for one reason and one reason only. That is that I think this country's in a lot of trouble. I think Joe Biden has weakened America at home and abroad.
We can't just criticize the so-called radical Biden agenda. Of course, there's everything in the world wrong with it. But that's not enough. That's why I think that's actually why we didn't succeed in 2022.
So former Vice President Mike Pence, some of his Republican rivals going at it over a populist message as Mike Pence seeks to project himself today as the only true conservative. He's in New Hampshire. He joins me now. And, sir, thank you for your time and welcome back to our program. Our digital team got a copy of your speech today.
You bet, Bill.
And one of the lines you're set to deliver is that, are we going to follow the siren song of populism away from the timeless conservative principles of the Republican Party? Right. To whom are you referring?
Right. Well, look, you look at this Republican field, whether it's my former running mate or some of his imitators, and there is a push in this Republican primary to move us away from our party's historic commitment to American leadership on the world stage, to a commitment to fiscal responsibility and reform in the face of a massive national debt crisis. And many of those people I shared the stage with, including my former running mate who wasn't there, want to marginalize the right to life and relegate it to a states-only issue. You know, I came to this party, Bill, during the Reagan years, and I really believe, and not only the pathway to victory for the Republican Party in the fall of 24, but the way we restore security and prosperity for the American people is to deliver a standard bearer and an agenda that's built on that common sense, conservative agenda that has always delivered greater security and prosperity for the American people. And I say with great humility that I'm the most proven, the most consistent, the most qualified, and the most tested conservative in this race. And we're going to lay out that contrast today at St. A's here in New Hampshire.
All right, you mentioned the imitators. Let me just show you where you stand right now. Wall Street Journal polling over the last couple of days, among the first choice of those Republicans, you're at 2%. And then among those who have a second choice in the race, you bump up to 4%, so you doubled your outcome there. I didn't hear any names there, but you and Vivek Ramaswamy seem to be sparring partners. What's going on? What's going on between the two of you?
Well, I think whether it's the former president or whether it's Vivek, who I think parrots a great amount of his ideas, and others in this race, I think there's a real conflict of visions here. Look, when Donald Trump ran for president of the United States in 2016, he promised to govern as a conservative. And many people saw his selection of me as his running mate as an affirmation of that. And, Bill, I'm incredibly proud of the record of the Trump-Pence administration. We did govern as conservatives. We rebuilt our military. We stood strong on the world stage, stood with our allies, stood up to our enemies. We got the economy rolling again, and, of course, appointed 3 conservatives to the Supreme Court that sent Roe versus Wade to the ash heap of history. But what I would say to you is that the former president and others in the field that parrot him simply make no such promise today. And I think it's a real choice in this party between whether we're going to stay on the path of the traditional conservative agenda that's defined this movement for the last 50 years and really is grounded in American ideals, or whether we're going to follow the siren song of populism unmoored to conservative principles. And I really believe that's a pathway not only to defeat for the Republican Party, but ultimately it's the pathway to disappointment and decline for our party and for our country. Okay. I mean, we know what works. It's American leadership, it's free market economics, it's traditional values. That's what I've always been about, and that's what we'll be about if I secure this nomination.
You mentioned right to life as a states-only issue.
Yeah. Right.
Wasn't it conservatives like yourself been pushing back against the Supreme Court, saying that they ruled incorrectly in 1973 anyway, and the law should be thrown out, which it has been? Therefore, the states should be entitled to make the law that they see of their choosing?
Well, I know that's the way some people interpret it. I think the Supreme Court returned the question of abortion to the states and the American people. And I've strongly supported efforts in states around the country, including my home state of Indiana, that's advanced protections for the unborn. But I think I might have been the only one on that stage, maybe with one exception, that said that actually the question of abortion was returned to the American people. The American people elect presidents, Bill. They elect senators. They elect congressmen. It's one of the reasons I called for a minimum standard. Once a child in the womb can feel pain, I think we ought to ban abortion across the country at that point. It's about 15 weeks, according to most physicians. And I want people to know that if I'm president of the United States, they're going to have a champion for the right to life in the Oval Office.
Okay.
But many in this primary want to marginalize this question to states only. That's something that people wanted to do with another issue in our society 150 years ago. I think this issue belongs to the American people, and I'll be a champion for life if I have the great privilege of being president of the United States.
I'm out of time. Thank you for your time, sir. We will speak again very soon down the road. Thank you. Mike Pence, New Hampshire, big speech today. Thanks for sharing a preview with us today. Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.